the mic, especially when I'm dealing with any talks that I do. Being that I've coached enough now, and as you know, coaches like to yell, so I'm gonna. Can you all hear me pretty well? Yeah. Is that clear? Okay. I'm always looking at, like David mentioned, I do a lot of coaching and done a lot of looking into things, studies or anything. And one of the things I just read up on was that the University of Oregon had a group of graduating psychologists, and they interviewed and they studied high school basketball players, and they found out some things. And so what I want to do is find out a little bit about yourselves, and we can get everybody has to stand up for this. So I want everybody to be up on their feet, okay? And we're going to do this together, and we're going to find out a little bit about each other, okay? And this is about you players, all right? And this is the last time now, okay? So now when you clap this time, we're all together. You keep your hands together, all right? 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, researchers, those of you who had your right thumb over your left thumb, raise your hand if you had that. Good. Well, the researchers found that these people have to be the thinkers on their basketball team, all right? They were the thinkers, all right? Okay. Now, people with their left thumb over their right thumb, raise your hand. We got a few. Well, what the researchers found was they had what they called sex appeal, these people. All right? Now, there's the last group here. Those people who had their thumbs parallel, raise your hands. Parallel. Well, the researchers found that these were the ones you had to worry about, okay? Because they think they have sex appeal. All right, have a seat. All right, if I can get your attention again. So we're going to get right into it, and that's basically what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about decisions, I'm going to talk about my story, and lastly I'm going to talk about power of goals. And I begin with decisions all the time because no matter what we're doing, every single day we make decisions. Be they small or big, but we make decisions every day. And the important thing is that you have to begin to realize that every single decision that you make has an effect. There's a result from every decision you make. And by all these decisions with all these results, they will group together and they will eventually pile up and they will shape who you're going to become and where you're going to go. For example, if you were to decide that each day you're not doing your homework or you're not going to study for exams, the result of those decisions, all right, are that you're not going to do well in your course or whatever. Okay? So, decisions are made every day. They create who we are, where we're going, and who we'll ultimately become. Now, I'm going to go on and talk about my story. Okay? And my story is about basketball, but what I want you to take from it is, it's my experiences and that, but you can take that information and take it and use it for whatever you want to accomplish. All right? Mine is basketball. Yours can be whatever. Anyway, I grew up in Sudbury, Ontario. I grew up in what is the nickel capital of Canada, if not was the world. All right? And when I grew up there, you hit again, Larry. That was my home. All right? Go ahead, Larry. That was across the street. Across the street was a Greyhound bus repair shop. My playground was the Big Nickel. If you ever know about the Big Nickel, is a great tourist thing, but it's been there for years. But it's just up above, like literally, I just go up the hill and I'm there. All right? Well, in grade 8, I went to St. Francis School. And that's when my basketball all started. Now, it was a junior high, and it was coached by, the grade 8 basketball team was coached by our principal, and his name was Mr. Samerchuk. And Mr. Samerchuk was a big guy, and he had always good teams. And I wanted to be on that grade 8 basketball team. And in grade 8, I was 4'11". All right? Pretty short. my friends had played basketball, and I wanted to, be a part of that. So I went to the tryouts. A lot of people said, well, not a lot of experience, some of my friends, that I didn't have a chance of making a team. But I said I was going to go anyway. So I decided I would try out. And Mr. Samarchik had like 3 or so days of tryouts. And he kept 16 players, which was great for me. And I made that grade 8 basketball team. And you can see I'm that little guy right back there. I was pretty happy about that. But anyway, we started practicing. We practiced 2-3 times a week or whatever. Then I began deciding I'd like to do something else here. Now my dad was a bricklayer. And he worked all the time. Early in the morning he'd head off. And I decided at that time I would go to the school and get a ride from my dad. And he would be off to work by a little after 7, and I'd get a ride. He'd let me off in front of St. Francis School gym. And at that time, you could get into the school. 7:30, walk in the gym and do whatever you wanted. I went to the gym. So from 7:30 to 8:30, I started to work on basketball. And all I did was, as I said, that was my first experience with basketball. I started to work on dribbling the basketball down, laying it up, dribbling it back, laying up. And I do that for an hour. Well, by the end of that grade 8 year, all right, I went from being one of those 16 players to actually being the starting guard, one of the starting guards. So it was pretty rewarding. All right, we went on and played in the Northern Ontario Championships, unfortunately lost. Well, anyway, so I finished up grade 8, and I grew a little bit. I was 5'1", going into grade 9. So in grade 9, I went to Lockerbie High School. And back then, and where I went to school, they had grade 9 to grade 13. So that's a pretty big spread there. They had grade 9 team, and I tried out. And like I had some reasonable skills now, I had no problem making the team. Our practices were at 7 in the morning because we were the bottom of the totem pole at the high school at Lockerbie. And as I was practicing there, we'd go in the morning. Again, I had this inclination. I wanted to do something more. Well, after school, the gym was always used because you had your junior teams, your senior teams, be it basketball, volleyball, and so the gym wasn't available. So I would just head on home, catch the bus, and I'd go home, and thank God these chairs are right here. How many of you have a basement at home? Like a true basement. I don't mean a finished basement. I mean cement. That's what we had. So I would go down in the basement and I would set up chairs in that basement. And I would dribble that basketball, imagining that these were players, and I'd dribble around these chairs, around, and I'd make a lot of noise. But I did this for a pretty long time. Well, my mom, Mama Pasquale, she'd be upstairs cooking all the time. She can cook. Italian moms, they can cook. Well, as I was dribbling, she'd be yelling down, "Stop that noise, Eli!" So I would just sit down and I'd just stay quiet for a little bit, and I'd just start dribbling the basketball just like this. And I'd do this, and then I'd get up and I'd start going like crazy. But I did this for an hour and a half after school, religiously. By the end of grade 9, this ball became a part of me. I became absolutely fantastic at ball handling. This was what I could do really well. And I started to play with the senior players. This is a little munchkin. But I really learned how to become extremely good at ball handling. So that was pretty good. I was enjoying basketball. Well, I get to grade 10. And a couple of things happened in grade 10. All right? When I was in grade 10, I grew a little. Thank God, I was 5'3". All right? But in grade 10, you get in grade 9, you have to take all these subjects. And in grade 10, I went to a school where you took all your courses through the whole year, not like semesters like they have now. So when I was in grade 10, being that, in grade 10 you choose certain subjects. You had your core subjects and you could choose. But you also had a chance to take a what they called a spare. How many people know what you have spares? Oh God, I love spares. So I took the spare, but the rule was that you had to take, if you're in grade 10, that spare must be in the library. So I would head to the library, and I did what a lot of grade 10s did if they had a spare in the library. I'd plug myself down, sit in that chair. That's it. That's all I do. But you know, one day, I was along a row of books. And along that row of books, I spotted a book. It was named They Call Me Coach by John Wooden. And I opened this book, and it was about a famous coach. How many people have ever heard of John Wooden? Great. If you haven't, you should look it up. Unfortunately, I'm honest to God, he passed away just last year. Okay, and but when I started reading this book back then, I mean, it wasn't just about basketball. It was about so many other things. All right, every chapter had something in it. All right, chapter 10 talked about things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And he'd talk about those things, and it wouldn't necessarily deal with basketball. And it went on, and it was in chapter 13. Remember this your lifetime through. Tomorrow there will be more to do, and failure waits for those who stay with some success made yesterday. Tomorrow you must try once more, and even harder than before. I mean, this became an inspiration. I never gave it back. This is that book, and as you can tell, I did pay for it, honest to God. I told him I'd lost it to the librarian, but I kept this book. All right? That same year in grade 10 was the year that the Canadian national team was getting ready for the '76 Montreal Olympics. And I happened to see, not yet, Larry. I happened to see on TV, this is going back to my time, okay? We had 3 channels, CBC, CTV, and the French channel. The Canadian national team back then, coached by Jack Donahue, was playing Russia in an exhibition game, all right? And I was 5'3". I'm reading this book. This was like an inspiration to me. And I saw this team. And I decided at that point that I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted to play basketball for Canada in the Olympics. This is a Sudbury kid who's 5'3", but that's what I decided to do. And I devoted myself to becoming the best basketball player from that point forward. I became a student of the game. I went up to Laurentian University and watch the Laurentian basketball players play. I would go and find out what do athletes do. I began to train. I began to run hills, find out I did stairs with weights. I constantly tried to find out better ways to become a basketball player. Olympics, and again, thanks. 9 years later, I played my first Olympics in Los Angeles. It took me 9 years to get there from that point. I grew a bit, got to 6 feet, thank God. But I was still the shortest player on our team. All right? I was the shortest player, but I was our starting point guard. All right? And we had a pretty successful Olympics. And we went to, we lost in the bronze medal game. Of course, we're the closest team that got to the United States. That's when they had a real dream team there with Jordan and Ewing. I mean, the list goes on and on. But we unfortunately lost in a bronze medal game to Yugoslavia by a couple of points. But what I want to talk about here is during those 9 years, okay? The challenges, the decisions that I had to make. Throughout those 9 years, there was peer challenges, okay? And that came a lot from when I started putting a lot of time in the gym. People, I was little. I mean, I was a gym rat, but people would say, and I always remember that they'd go, Eli, what the hell are you doing? Why are you spending so much time? You're just a little runt, all right? But I understood what I wanted to accomplish. And there was always peer pressure from my friends. And I always remember this. In the summer of grade 11, I was playing basketball in a gym. It was Lockerbie's gym, and they had the gym available with people you don't know, but his name was Dave Zanata. Came from Sault Ste. Marie, fantastic basketball player. But we would play, and I started to really, play in the summer. We'd play one-on-one and everything like that. And my friends came by one day on their way just going to the lake. A lot of lakes in Sudbury, summertime. And so Dave and I have been playing, so I thought, oh, you know what, I'll just take off and go. So I went to the lake. We kind of just hung out there, sitting around in the sun or whatever. And a couple of hours went by for sure. I came back, and Dave was still playing. And that was the last time I ever took any time away when I was playing basketball to do something that I didn't feel was worth my time. My parents, and we all have challenges from parents. Well, my parents came from Italy. They came as immigrants back in 1958. And they had a couple things that were really important. One was that their kids got an education, right? And two was that you got a part-time job. Well, I was doing the education, but I didn't want a part-time job. I wanted to play basketball. And Mama Pasquale would say, Eli, you got to get a part-time job. And I said, Ma, I don't want a part-time job. I said, Eli, you got to get a part-time job. And then another week, Ma, I don't want to play. I don't want a part-time job. And then it would go on, and then, of course, I got a part-time job. That part-time job was great because I looked, and I got a job at the Laurentian University equipment counter at their gymnasium. Okay? So every opportunity I got, I could still go up and practice and play basketball. Right? And the last thing was my academic challenges. I realized back then as I was going, I went to watch university players. That's where the good players play, and that's where I needed to go. All right, so I wasn't a great student. English was really my second language to begin with, but I knew I had to get certain things accomplished in order to get to university so that I could pursue my goal of going to the Olympics. Okay? So I just want to hit that again. If you go back, and I'm coming back to decisions, and what sort of goes with my story. In grade 8, I decided to try out for that grade 8 basketball team. The result was I made that team. All right? Grade 8, I also decided to go in early in the morning to work on my basketball skills. The result was that I got a little bit better. Grade 9, I became crazy at dribbling a basketball. I got a lot better. In grade 10, I made the decision that I wanted to play the Olympics. And all those decisions had results. And those things began to shape who I was going to become and where I was going to go. So we go back to everyday decisions. Okay? They shape who we are. But those challenges that I had, I understood back then as I do now, that if anything was going to be, if anything was going to happen in my life, it was up to me. It was not up to my friends. It was definitely not going to be up to my parents or my teachers. Those decisions that I made, I was responsible for those decisions. And the sooner that you realize that the decisions that you make every day are your decisions and you're responsible for them, that's when you're going to be able to get on with accomplishing and getting after things that you want to accomplish in your life. Okay. Choose well. Okay? It's okay. Every time you make decisions, choose well. All right, so we talked about decisions, my story, and the last and final thing is the power of goals. Goals are exciting. Goals get you psyched up. They get you up, be it in the morning. When I decided from grade 10 on, and I know it's not easy, you're tired or whatever, but I did look forward to going to school because I knew there was this basketball world for me and what I wanted to accomplish. And whatever it is, for you or whatever, if you set something out, it is exciting. You will wake up with something to go after. When you were young kids in elementary school, if you guys had some event to go to as a kid, when you had some trip or whatever, I guarantee you that you woke up like that. Your eyes were big and ready to go. That was an adventure. That was something to go to. And goals are like that. They're an adventure. They get you excited about every day. Now I have some steps to achieving goals. And the first one is that you have to decide. We go back to that decision. You have to make a decision on what you want to accomplish and what you want to get out of something. The second one is you have to commit to that goal. All right? You're wondering, what's that bacon and eggs about? Now you got the pig and the chicken. Now you got people in your schools or in your life that that are involved in different things, right? They're involved in whatever, be it a music club or a music or a basketball team. Then you got others that are committed. All right? Now we had some bacon and eggs this morning. See that chicken? That chicken was involved in your breakfast. All right? But that bacon, that pig was committed.